Protesters camped in Santa Clarita yesterday as government officials seized a girl 6 years old from her home of 5 years in an adoption race row. Now, the devastated foster family were forced to give up their daughter, Lexi, by court because she was found to be 1.5% Native American and they are white. The Indian Child Welfare Act says that Native American children can only live with other Native American families. Now, Lexi is a 6-year-old. She has 1.5% Choctaw blood. She's now been removed from her foster parents' home. They've been her foster parents for 5 years. Protesters tried to stop the government officials from taking the child. They spent the night camped outside the home. There was sad scenes in the early hours when the child was reluctantly handed over to social services. There's footage of the child, of Lexi screaming, "Don't let them take me away," of the family crying. Protesters were outraged over this. Let's talk a little bit about the reason of why this happened. First of all, the Indian Child Welfare Act. It's a federal law from the 1970s. Now, it was put out in good faith. It's largely because of the high removal rate of children, Indian children, from traditional homes. We're talking about the movement that seeks to reverse the systematic genocide of indigenous people, which so often saw them relocated and re-educated in white families. So this law was put out in the 1970s. In the case of this child in Santa Clarita, at 17 months of age, she was removed from the custody of her biological mother. She had a substance abuse problem. Her biological father, who's Native American, had an extensive criminal history. She's lived with this family for 5 years. They've tried to extend, to get an emergency approval to extend her stay. She has siblings. Obviously, a lot of heartbreak going on there, protesters. And now, get this, she's going to be moved to a family member, a relation of her father, who lives in Utah, who's not even Native American, but he is of the family.
This makes me physically ill just thinking about the emotional and psychological implications that this child is going to be living with for the rest of her life. You know, this misguided attempt to enforce an antiquated law that clearly does not apply to her specifically, having only, you know, this minor blood quantum standard, you know, that's being applied to her, this tiny amount of Indian heritage that they determined that she had. You know, social workers in this country, they're not elected officials to be voted out of office. They're employees of the state. And when you see decisions like this being made where they're so clearly off and not representing the welfare of children that they're designed to protect, you know, in this country we have so many children that are not wanted, that are languishing in foster care, that you know, age out of foster care, that they're, you know, wards of the state until they're 18 years old. You know, how fortunate of her to have parents that want her, and then to be uprooted like that. I can only imagine what that's going to do to her.
Absolutely. Well, here's a quote from her foster father, Rusty Page. He said, quite frankly, when Lexi is old enough to understand what happened to her, I think that would lead to resentment of her heritage, not embracing of the culture. And, you know, given the scenes that were there in Santa Clarita when she was taken away, the crying, the screaming, the tears from the siblings, you can see how this can possibly happen, or certainly a resentment of the laws that surround it. It is a well-intended law. It is obviously because of this removal rate of Indian children, the systematic genocide, putting them into white families. But clearly this is a misguided application of it. This 6-year-old child, Lexi, she's been taken away from her foster family of 5 years, moved to a family in Utah that is related to her Native American father, all because she was found to be 1.5% Native American.